Hey everybody, Kyle here. So I've had my Nikon Z6 for a solid 2 weeks now. I've had a chance to put it through its paces and do some tests and think about it, and so now I'd like to share with you some second thoughts about the Nikon Z6. One of the factors that piqued my interest the most about this new camera system was its adaptability with other lens lines and other mounts. Large mount, short flange distance gives a lot of options. I've got this old FD to Nikon F adapter that I can use with my old Canon FD glass, which can connect to this adapter. There's a glass optic in this, so there is some degrading of image quality. Eventually, new adapters that'll be FD to Z directly will be on the market that will avoid this, so I'll be able to do some thorough tests on that, but it's kind of fun having an old f4.5 lens like this, and getting some VR actually makes it usable again. So I'll start off by what I've lost by this camera. It's not all upgrades. If, like me, you're a fan of using multiple third-party batteries, I'm afraid you're out of luck. They might fool the D7000, they might fool the D600. Z6 won't have it. These just don't work. You gotta stick with the name brand batteries. My Samyang 14mm 2.8 really doesn't play well with the adapter. The aperture flip keeps clicking up and down all over the place, giving me incredibly inconsistent exposure. It is far too unreliable, so this is going to stick paired with the D600, which is unfortunate because this is one of the ones I was looking forward to using most with it, just because it's so compact and light for such a fast wide angle. So because my Samyang 14 won't work, I'll have to settle for the Tamron 15 to 30 2.8. This lens works. The VR in it works in conjunction with the IBIS incredibly well. It is so smooth, so forgiving. Even with the, if you add the electronic one as well, it looks like you've got a gimbal. It is fantastic. Unfortunately, the focus tends to hunt quite a bit with this one. It's quite frustrating. I've had a few times where it even kick out of autofocus mode and you'll see the focus peaking appear for a few seconds. This is the original version, not the G2 with the upgradable firmware. Tachina lens. What I really like about this is I've often mentioned that it looks great from about f5.6 upwards, but it looks awful any wider than that. With the EVF, when you can zoom into 200%, it's like pixel peeping while you're in the field shooting. You can really see exactly the point as you're opening that aperture, exactly where you've pushed the lens too far. And you can zoom it right to the corner and see where those flaws are and realize, oh, I can't compose that shot that way, or I can't use these settings. It really speeds up the feedback and the learning. I've never had a system where I was able to find all these intricate little details so quickly. I'd like to talk about putting on DX glass. I just finished some ISO tests with the video mode in DX, and there's very minimal loss in image quality. Looks just as sharp to me. One thing to note, with the Tachina 11 to 16 2.8, I still can switch it so you can kind of see the border, so you have to manually go in and switch it to DX crop mode, or zoom all the way out to 16mm and use it as a full frame prime. With the Nikon, this is the kit lens, the 18 to 55 VR 3.5 to 5.6G. The VR does work in conjunction with the IBIS, not nearly as well as the Tamron VR does. As a rule of thumb, a lot of people have been saying autofocus will work on all G lenses. That's not necessarily true. Here's the 70 to 300, I think it's a 4 to 5.6G. No autofocus, but I always hated this lens because it's too soft for still photography. It's a little too soft for 4K, but if you're shooting 1080p with the IBIS or the VR, it's actually a useful lens, not a bad way to spend 120 bucks. With the FTZ adapter, things like the 85mm primes are a joy to use. It really makes a big difference. Of the features that I'm noticing, the two that are the biggest would have to be the connectivity and the IBIS. On a box, these don't look like that impressive of a feature, but I often find if I'm walking around, I might have my camera and a phone, see something I want to Instagram, I'll instinctively go for the phone because I don't want to deal with, you know, taking out the card, put it in the computer, pulling it, editing it, doing this, plugging my phone, switching the file, putting it on the phone. No. And the IBIS, part of photography is the almost meditative aspect of it, where you have to breathe deeply. There's a technique to it. Squeeze, don't press, that sort of thing. It's all about relaxing yourself and savoring the moment. But the IBIS just lets you get away with anything. Like, shooting from the hip is actually a practical way to shoot now, because you can just kind of go like this and shoot, and you know, you don't need those 3 points of contact to stabilize the thing because the camera does it all for you. So it's just so easy. The window of shooting possibilities is expanded greatly. I guess, to be honest, the reason why I bought this camera, there's nothing wrong with the D600, but I wanted IBIS, I wanted focus peaking for manual lenses, and I wanted 4K, and this camera gives me that plus others, so I'm happy with it. As for the actual feel, I think the construction feels better than the D600. There's far fewer physical buttons, which I find a little frustrating, but this dial right here, so easy to use, so accessible. I was going for walks through rain, through fog, through snow. Even with gloves on, the buttons in this are all, I'm able to use them. In fact, I now find going back to the D600 frustrating, just because the wheels, just the bigger, simpler physical controls, they're just, I don't know, they're just easier to operate. The wheels feel slightly more solid in the hands. Feels more like a D800 than a D600 does. The D600 has that same D7000 feeling. It's solid and well built, but this just has that little extra. Other frustrations regarding power is they've added USB-C charging, which is great, but if you've got one of these portable chargers, you'd think you'd be able to pop it in your bag and charge the camera on the go, or be able to trickle charge it while you're doing a time-lapse sequence or something, but sadly it doesn't support those features, so that's kind of a bummer. I'm actually really happy with this lens. I never took my old 28 to 80 out just because it's too big and too heavy. This one, even though, yeah, I've lost a stop of light gathering, it's small enough and light enough that I actually have it out with me, and that's really what matters. The best camera is the one you have with you, and being smaller and lighter, I'm going to have this one with me far more often, and the fact that it takes such great pictures and videos along with that is just a really nice bonus.